chapter of our alumni association, and it was after our board made a somewhat controversial decision in some people's minds. And believe it or not, I was booed. I mean, I thought, you know, wow, this is a low-paying job to get booed at. My wife always jokes with me. I retired from the law firm at the end of 2020, and she said, you know, I can't quite understand why you could have kept practicing law as full-time or part-time and get paid for it, and now you took on a non-paid full-time job. But it's probably one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, and it's exciting, and I'm happy to be here today and hopefully answer all your questions.
Thank you, David.
Because I don't trust technology always, I brought my hard copy as well. Sorry, David Corky, but if my iPad would die, I'd be in trouble. So.
Well, we appreciate you being here, David. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and you're always welcome back here at the Schuylkill campus and in the greater Schuylkill County community. You know, let's get the one that I think that you're going to be probably pretty careful about, and rightfully so, out of the way first. But I've got to ask you, because these people would want me to ask this to you, what, if anything, can you share of your thoughts regarding the Commonwealth Campus analysis, and specifically, people here are very concerned. We don't think that we should have to make the compelling case for Penn State-Schuylkill, but we're proud to do so, and we think we have a lot of compelling facts, but what would be your comments to this group of this ongoing process?
Sure, and it's a surprising question, I wasn't expecting. But in all seriousness, this is a long time coming. There are studies at the university that date back 20 to 25 years looking at the Commonwealth Campus ecosystem structure. And the goal and purpose of our land grant mission that is exemplified by the Commonwealth campuses has certainly evolved over the years. And as a result of that, it's really our duty as trustees to ask the administration to take a hard look at whether the 20 campus system we have continues to serve the Commonwealth as it was intended to, and the students as it was intended to. A couple of things that have happened over the years, obviously, high school graduation rates are down throughout the Commonwealth. The demographic cliff that they're talking about in 2026 is real in terms of the further decline. And the student population at some of our campuses is at 30% or less of their capacity. Some of them have classes that are as small as 3 and 4 people. And you might say, well, that's really good because it's a one-on-one type education. But is that the Penn State experience that people expect when they come to a flagship university like Penn State? I don't think so. So those things just aren't sustainable. So we've had to look at that. The World Campus obviously has had an impact on some of our campuses. Believe it or not, the World Campus is now our second largest campus without any particular physical assets, right? And that has made our education more accessible and more affordable for a lot of Pennsylvanians, and perhaps most importantly, a lot of our veterans, a lot of our first responders, a lot of our military personnel. So that's a positive, but it's adversely impacted some of our campuses. So we had to take a giant step back and ask the administration to have a data-driven process to analyze campus by campus how each one is doing and what they mean, obviously, to their communities, which is highly important. So we've gone down that road. We have a large 10-person committee led by the President's Chief of Staff, the Vice President for Commonwealth Campuses, and the Provost. And they're doing the hard work. So the decisions ultimately will be data-driven. But going back to my law school or law firm career, I had to do compensation for 60 partners out of a 150-person firm. And of course, they all thought they should be paid more, right? And we always would have all this data on how they should be compensated. But I coined the phrase that the objective data doesn't tell you everything. You have to take a subjective application of objective data, is what I've always said. And that's the approach, at least I, as chair of the board, will be taking when the recommendations ultimately come from this group. Why? Because the data itself doesn't tell the whole story about how important a particular campus is in the particular ecostructure that they operate. So those things have to be taken into account. How important is it to the community? Is the community supporting it? Are the legislators supporting that campus? Those kinds of things are all subjective things that have to be examined in addition to the objective data. So at the end of the day, I feel that yes, there will be closures at some campuses. The ones that are not closed will be stronger than ever because it's going to free up resources to dedicate to the successful one. Optimistically, I'm sure you want Schuylkill to be a success. I personally do too. But I don't make that decision individually. So that's going to allow for resources to perhaps expand the nursing program or expand the radiology program, expand programs at campuses that are increasing enrollment, not declining enrollment. So this is an issue that's been kicked down the road for at least 20 years. We now have a president that is transformational. She's willing to take on the difficult issues. This is a difficult issue, but it's necessary for the university to continue to grow and thrive in the areas that it's needed. And it's needed throughout the Commonwealth. To fulfill our land-grant mission and keep an accessible and affordable education, we need Commonwealth campuses. Now, do we need X number in one particular geographic area? Probably not. When enrollments are 250 or 300 individuals. I mean, those are the kind of challenges we have to look at. And when we go to the legislature for our appropriation, we want to be able to say, these decisions were difficult, because, I mean, we have legislators at our table. No legislator that has a Commonwealth campus in their district is going to be happy if their campus closes, right? No, and I understand that. But by the same token, maybe there are other things that can be done with those campuses. Maybe it's a relationship with a charter school. Maybe it's a relationship with a local university that doesn't have any more capacity for land. Maybe it's a repurposing in terms of a rural healthcare facility. Maybe it's a repurposing as an expansion of Penn College of Technology. Because some of our campuses where only 40% of the students are completing their degree, it's a disservice to them. They start a program, they perhaps take on debt and never finish the degree. We're doing a disservice to that individual, because maybe that individual wasn't intended for an associate degree or a degree, but maybe they're intended for a tech program that is going to give them a very rewarding career. And those are the kinds of programs that Penn College of Technology has that the university owns. Some of those programs perhaps can be exported to those campuses that may be subject to closure. So there's a lot of different things that can be done at these campuses. I put the word closure in quotes because I'm not sure what closure is going to mean at the campuses that are announced to be closed. It might be a direct sale to a local university. It might be something in conjunction with the local school district that needs our facilities. All those things have to be examined. That was a long-winded answer. I apologize. I wanted to cover as much of it as possible so that you have an idea of what we're trying to get our arms around.
I really appreciate that answer. It was thorough. It was even more thorough than I thought that you would be able to do today, being very careful. I will tell you that I appreciate your comment of a subjective analysis of objective data. I will remember that, just as the first time my colleague Samantha and I met Dr. Neely Benvenuti here, she said something that we have embedded in our mind forever, which is the following: in God we trust, all others bring data.
Yes, that's
And
one of our famous quotes.
We take that quite seriously, and we would never present to the university a compelling argument, not understanding that we need data. One other comment, because you talked about the school districts. Jonathan Cook and others asked me about the superintendents today, and I was wondering myself, because the vice president of our board is a high school, or a school district superintendent. It so turns out, ironically today, that many of our superintendents are at a statewide superintendent conference, ironically, in State College. So, otherwise, I'm pretty sure 12 superintendents would be able to tell you personally a lot of compelling reasons why this campus is so highly important. But thank you for that. So, next question. As chairman of the board of Penn State, as we look at things, what steps do you believe the university is taking to ensure that academic programs are aligned with the evolving needs of the business community in Pennsylvania, particularly in fields that are really going very rapidly, like technology, healthcare, and how is the university, in your mind, tackling that challenge of staying up and, to the degree possible, staying ahead of it?
Very good question. And again, I will support our president, who I think the world of. I was I co-chaired the search committee that ultimately hired Neely. And she's taken on not only the Commonwealth Campus issue, but she's taken on our portfolio and program review of all of our majors in our colleges. It's called the Academic Portfolio and Program Review, right, Larry? Yeah. APPR for short. All these acronyms I've had to learn after the law, after practicing law. But that review is really designed to listen to the employers that are on campus that tell us the kind of students they're looking for to hire. And our hiring experience is outstanding at Penn State. We're one of the most desired institutions for Fortune 500 companies to come and visit. So why are we doing the APPR? Again, to align the needs of the employers with the expectations of our students, while still giving them a well-rounded education. I'm a liberal arts graduate, political science major, as our Senator Argall was. And we're trying to match up the soft skills that are necessary for all those technical skills. You cited the key ones: healthcare, cybersecurity, technology, engineering, the STEM programs. Obviously are all needed. But in today's world, and with the technology that these students grew up with, what we have heard from many employers, what's lacking are the soft skills. Can they communicate with clients? Can they communicate with customers? Can they problem solve as a group, as opposed to doing it online? Can they meet people face to face and disagree with them without being disagreeable? Those kind of skills have to be embedded in. So that's one of the ways we're trying to prepare it. So we're modifying curricula as a result of that. We're trying to match the emerging technologies and the strengths that the Commonwealth has, particularly in the energy area. I mean, we are sitting on unbelievable energy resources in this Commonwealth, and we have to fulfill the employer needs in those areas, in earth and mineral sciences and in the engineering field. But again, those fields have to be supplemented with those soft skills. So we're focused on high growth industries, which obviously is cybersecurity and healthcare, and advanced manufacturing, which we have those occurring in Pennsylvania, like with robotics in the Pittsburgh area, and meeting those needs. AI is a total game changer in that area. We have a variety of programs that are AI related, and it is one with the greatest potential and also some of the greatest risks, and we have to balance that out. But artificial intelligence is here to stay, and I think from an educational standpoint, in particular a higher educational standpoint, it is as much of a game changer as the opening up of the internet and the creation of the iPhone. That's how impactful it's going to be on how we deliver higher education. Which again, circling back to the campuses and the needs of our campuses, we have to have the technological infrastructure at the campuses to meet those needs. So I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Yes, and I would just give you another pitch here for Schuylkill County, that a long time ago, probably almost a decade ago, our Northeast Manufacturers and Employer Council brought a program here. We concur absolutely with your comments about soft skills and the your employability skills program we call Affectionate Yes, which was germinated out of the Harley-Davidson plant in York when they realized technologically they were okay, but soft skills wise they were not okay, has been brought to Schuylkill County a long time ago and now is disseminated in all of our school districts here. And we're very proud of the work that the Northeast Manufacturers and Employer Council has done on that, and we work hand in hand to support that program, both as a business community and as leaders in the school district. So I appreciate those comments. So from your experience, and I think this is more, I'm kind of phrasing this more globally, what do you believe personally are the most effective ways to foster what we believe we want and we believe we do every day here, which is collaboration? We think everything functions in partnership and collaboration between private sector, government, educational institutions, so that we can all work together to accelerate economic growth in our region. What words of encouragement or direction would you give this audience of how best to do that?
Well, I'd say in some ways that this campus has been a model for how this should be done. Dating back to the wasn't called a public-private partnership, but when your student housing was constructed, community leaders got together, helped build that at their cost before we purchased it as a university. So that was a precursor to public-private partnerships, but I think more of those are going to be necessary. We're doing those at University Park and at other campuses. The next student housing project at University Park is a public-private partnership. We did a long-term ground lease with a private developer that's going to build that housing. A lot less expensive for the university. As David Snyder knows that we've built in protections for the students that are going to be there. They have to be beyond their freshman year. Those things can happen all across the Commonwealth at our other campuses. Looking at the workforce shortages, nursing's been mentioned a lot here. We all know there's a huge nursing shortage. So anything the community can do to encourage students to go into that field and to hopefully expand that program at the campuses that have it. Communicating, you mentioned the superintendents, and I know this campus does a good job getting out into all the local high schools. Not all campuses are as effective at that. So those are very important, the relationships with the local high schools to attract the students. Providing opportunities, and again, your co-op program was novel at the time it was created. Drexel University was always known for its co-op program when I was looking at colleges. Everybody's nodding their head because everyone's familiar with Drexel's 5-year co-op program, especially for engineering. You have those types of co-op programs here. So expanding those things is absolutely critical. Collaboration with the legislature is crucial. The legislature's been supportive of Penn State University. It would be nice if we wouldn't have to be lumped in with some other institutions and we could be looked at on our own. The creation of the performance-based funding, again, something that President Benvenuti was a big advocate of. Looks like it's in play now. There's a $60 million proposal in the budget for performance-based funding. We're very confident that whatever metrics come out of that, Penn State University is going to do very well. So that will help with our appropriation. So that's part of the collaboration. The innovation and utilization of our Launchbox program, and in Penn State, again, help funded by the legislature. Those are the types of things that will, again, create additional public-private partnerships. We've had, I have the statistics, I have to look at my notes for that because I don't know all the numbers. I've been avoiding looking at my notes, but you know, since 2015, we've assisted over 8,300 entrepreneurs, engaged over 24,000 faculty and students at our launch boxes throughout the Commonwealth. We are certainly, I think some people have feared that the launch boxes could be closed as well. There are no plans for that as long as the funding continues and there's legislative and community support. The launch boxes have been a real game changer, I think, in some of the communities. So even if a community loses a campus, we're very optimistic that the launch box will continue with the support of the local community and the legislature.
Well, again, I appreciate that, and that kind of entrepreneurial spirit is here in Schuylkill County, both through Penn State, both through a chamber program now called Ignite Schuylkill. We're very proud of understanding that in the new world order, entrepreneurial development is critical, and collaboratively, individually, collectively, this community understands that and is working towards common goals to make sure that we're all involved. In fact, our Ignite Schuylkill youth program is, the classes are taught right here at Penn State-Schuylkill. So we understand the importance, and I appreciate you talking about that. I would also point out to you that right in front of you, and you had lunch with him today, is our past chair of our advisory board, Rick Wiest. And I bring him up because he did an extremely, for all the great work that has been done on our advisory board, long before some of us ever got on the advisory board. We got to a point with our housing, our residential units here, where we just realized that we had built enough now that at the end of the day, it was gonna be really hard to stay up with them and keep them in the kind of condition to recruit students here. And thanks to Penn State University and our negotiator, Rick Wiest, we got to a level of cooperation and collaboration that we could transfer those to Penn State University, which we believe will lead to long-term viability for students here on our campus. So I want to point Rick out, and I also want to thank the university for their cooperation, because that was not a task taken lightly, because we're trying to move an asset, and at the same time, we're asking you to take a major asset. So we thank you for that.
And I'll put a plug in for the Penn State Extension, which is our agriculture extension program. I mean, not a lot of people know about that. It's one of the best kept secrets, I think. But we have an agriculture extension program in all 67 counties. It's still our largest industry, $100 billion or more a year in agriculture. And again, with the kind of support we've gotten with our appropriation for that, it can continue and expand. And as a reflection, I was saying to Senator Argo at lunch that we always have a board retreat in the summer, and we usually do it at a campus. This year, I was planning to have it at the Harrisburg campus and invite legislators, but then it was the same week as Ag Extension, or Ag Progress Days in State College. And I thought, well, I really didn't want to do the retreat back in State College, because we like to do it at a campus. We will be, our July board meeting will be at a campus. But I thought, this is a great opportunity for other board members to get a greater appreciation for the Ag Extension program. And Ag Progress Days are perfect for that. And, you know, surreptitiously, there happen to be a lot of legislators there, and I think it's important for us to bond more with individual legislators as board members. I kind of grew up in the political world because for my law firm, we did some state-related work, so I was a quote registered lobbyist, but I think I'm being lobbied pretty heavy today.
You noticed.
Well, I would just share with you in agriculture, number one, we have one of our proudest farmers right here in front of us, former member of the Board of Trustees, Commissioner Boots Hetherington, great strawberries, look forward to them every June, and he has a lot of other crops. And I would also tell you that our Ignite Schuylkill adult winner was the infamous, now open farm store in Pottsville, which the concept is bringing locally produced products to a grocery store concept right in the city of Pottsville, but all homegrown items coming in, and that's coming from a farm. And a couple that owns that farm, Honeybrook Farms, now extending that into the farm store. $100,000 awardee winner from the Schuylkill Chamber Foundation through the Ignite Schuylkill program. So we're pretty proud of. We not only like to talk about things, we like to put our money where our mouth is. So
And Booth has a great voice.
He does. Yeah, well, you heard him sing at the 90th.
I did.
I mean, I was blown away.
If I only had those talents.
So another question, with the ongoing shifts, we're in a global economy, we say it every day, business without walls, economy without walls. How can our local communities, particularly in more rural areas like here in Schuylkill County, build more resilient economies? What role do you think Penn State University and Commonwealth campuses play in shaping the future workforce and the resiliency that we need for successful small businesses in areas like ours?
Well, some of this I think we may have already covered, but workforce development and skills training in relationship to what the employers are telling us they need. And I think that connection has frequently been lost. Academia can get locked into being a little too academic and not perhaps as practical as it should be in creating what workers need. Law school is kind of a good example of that. I mean, there are some lawyers in the room. 3 years of law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer, but it doesn't teach you much about how to practice law. And that's why they call it the practice law, because you never get good at it. But the same can be said for some of the academic programs that are focused too much on the academic side, which is necessary, but not on the practical side of what the employer is asking for. So the relationship that higher education has with the local community and with those employers have to work in conjunction so that the right skill sets are there when we're graduating our students. Where again, we're doing a disservice to the student. If we graduate an engineer that may have great technical skills, but is in an area where he has to communicate with developers or architecture engineers and things like that, they may not be as successful. So the entrepreneurship for small businesses, again, harkening back to the lunch boxes and Penn State, I think that's crucial for it. And leveraging the innovation and research that's going on constantly within the university structure. We're up to $1.3 billion in research for the university. A good piece of that is at campuses, and the biggest piece is with the Applied Research Lab with the Department of Defense. We're unique in the country in that. With what's happening in the world structure, we can increase that and perhaps spread some of that out to other campuses. The digital access and infrastructure at every campus is going to be crucial because the technology is moving so rapidly and we have to be ahead of it. So continuing to strengthen those collaborative relationships with the community, with the local high schools, with the local businesses, small and large.
Thank you. So, you've obviously had a robust career, and you would never be at the level that you're at and your time with your firm without some tremendous leadership skills. Chair of the Board of Trustees, Chair, Vice Chair, Pennsylvania Business and Industry. My question would be, what key leadership lessons do you believe you've learned that have made you as successful as you are?
That's a hard one. And I've always wondered, almost any organization I've ever been in, for whatever reason, I ended up in a leadership position. And I never quite figured that out, but I did. The very first one, you might get a kick out of this. 12 years old, I was elected as the president of my catechetical class. Anybody remember catechetical class? You had to go through that before your first communion. So, I was 12 years old, and okay, I'm the president, it was an election, I guess I was gonna have politics in my future. But my pastor pulled me aside, and he said, your name's David. I said, yeah, I know that. And he said, well, there's a verse in Psalms that I want you to go back and read. Well, I'm thinking 12 years old, so I really want to go back and read this. But I did, and I've tried to follow this, and it depending which version of the Bible you read, but it says, David shepherded them with integrity of heart, and with skillful hands he led them. And since age 12, I've tried to apply that in any position I went to. So that was very formative for me. When I first was elected chair of McNeese, Wallace, and Norrick, I made a presentation and I said my philosophy of leadership is going to be inclusive, to be collaborative, and to be communicative. And that was before DEI was ever even thought of, right? But inclusion was important. So those are the kinds of things that guided me. And then throughout the years, I've read a lot of leadership books, general management books. James Collins is one of my favorite authors. He wrote Good to Great, that a lot of you I'm sure have read. But he wrote a subsequent book that was shorter, that How the Mighty Fall, which was the final book that he wrote in that series. And I always relied on a quote in there in my leadership role. And that was that great organizations understand the difference between culture and operating strategies, which have to change with the environment that changes around you, and understand the difference between that and their core values, which should never change. So the core values of our institution at Penn State are not changing at all. But if we don't change some cultural things and some operating strategy things, which is what we're doing with APPR and the campus analysis, we will not continue to be great or become as great as we can be. And we can go so much farther than we are already, and we're already at a great place.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked that question. That was a filled answer. Thank you so much. So let me ask you one last question here, and it kind of relates back to many of our people have worked with our chamber for a long time. We have newcomers, but we also have seasoned veterans, decades working with the Chamber of Commerce, hopefully no longer needing to realize the important role that a chamber plays. But having served with organizations like the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, what key factors do you believe differentiates successful chambers of commerce from others? And how can local chambers drive more impactful change than we're already trying to drive?
Well, because of my role at the state chamber, I think first and foremost is advocacy for business-friendly policies at all levels. And that doesn't mean only at the state. It can mean the local planning commission, the county commissioners, working those relationships so people understand that the lifeblood of a community is really going to be the business community, small and large. So advocating for those types of policies at all levels, state, county, and local, absolutely crucial. Continuing to expand on the technology needs and the innovation needs that you best appreciate as a local chamber in relationship to the local needs. And you already are connecting with the businesses for that. I think Penn State can be an asset there for local chambers, funneling it either through the state chamber or directly through your relationships with the university. And many of the local chambers, Drew in particular, has relationships with the university already. So enhancing those certainly would go a long way.
I appreciate that, and you'd have to be living in seclusion if you didn't know that our local chamber has been one of the leaders of 60 chambers across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on child care advocacy. And the very distinct reason for that is there is no way we can have enhanced workplace and job placement without addressing the serious problem that's going on in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with child care placement, teacher recruitment and retention, and we are committed to it, and we're very proud that 60 local organizations across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is not doing it because we ask them to, but they're doing it because they know equally as well as we do how important it is in their local communities. So I think that we subscribe to what you're saying, and we appreciate that. David, I can't thank you enough. I think that this has been everything we hoped for and more. We appreciate your leadership. You know that we have to make the pitch that we did today, but on the other hand, we respect Dr. Bendaputi and the Board of Trustees, and we will continue to shout from the mountaintops how special we believe Penn State-Schuylkill is, and the compelling reasons why it should continue to exist. But your leadership and your guidance, along with Dr. Bendaputi's and the Board of Trustees, is important to us, and we greatly appreciate your time to be with us today and share your thoughts.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you very much.